So with the NBA offseason having officially begun, congrats to the Denver Nuggets, by the way, on their NBA championship. The NBA draft is next week, free agency the week after. Trade rumors are now in full swing, where you had reports come out that the Wizards and Bradley Beal are working on a path to find him a trade should the Wizards look to trigger a rebuild. And then, a bit more surprising news, according to Jake Fisher, the Bulls have quietly been contacting teams engaging the interest in Zach Lavine around the NBA. For me personally, I don't have a problem with this, which I'll explain why in this video, but regardless, it is significant considering Lavine is the Bulls' most valuable trade piece and a guy that they just signed to a max contract extension this past offseason. But we all know the front office has said they're going to be taking a look at everything, which everything means including Zach Lavine. He is not untouchable. So in this video, we're going to be talking about what this means for the Bulls, how it can trickle down to the rest of the offseason, and how there's actually a first domino that would need to fall before a trade for Zach Lavine would occur. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Real quick, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, as we are actually nearing 35,000 subscribers, which is just insane to me. I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. We also just hit 20,000 on the second channel and One Hoops. Feel free to check that out if you have not already. Link to that is in the description. I talk all things NBA over there. But anyway, let's talk about this recent report that came out from Jake Fisher and how the Bulls are exploring or gauging interest around the league for Zach's trade value. Now, it's important to note, because things can get taken out of context in the world of sports media and aggregation on social media, that this by no means the Bulls are looking to ship Zach Lavine, or they want to move on from him, or that Zach has requested a trade. No, the report further adds that multiple teams have indicated the Bulls are holding a steep evaluation for Lavine. And honestly, guys, there's nothing wrong with this. Whether you're a Zach fan or not, the Bulls, meaning the front office, are simply doing their jobs, trying to see what Zach's trade value is, and if there is any significant offer that nets them a big haul, then so be it if that happens. They're doing their due diligence. They're looking at everything that's on the table for this offseason and going about improving this roster, whether it's for the now or for the long term. I've seen some people say, leave it to the Bulls to trade Butler for Zach Lavine and other pieces, prioritizing keeping Zach over those other pieces, bringing in talent to put around him, then giving him a max contract, all but to look to trade him after that. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that's sometimes how this business works. And when things don't work out, you pivot. And clearly, things have not worked out for the Bulls in the roster they have constructed around Zach Lavine. Now, I personally think it makes more sense to keep Lavine over, say, DeMar or Vucevic because of his age and versatility on offense, but we all know for the Bulls, you're going to get the most in a trade for Lavine over someone like DeMar or Vuce. Don't forget the rumor going into the trade deadline that there was an apparent offer on the table from the New York Knicks to the Bulls of 3 first-round picks. I believe it also included Obi Toppin, Quentin Grimes, and then Evan Fournier and Derrick Rose for salary filler. I don't know how true that is because it came from Joe Cowley, but if Lavine can net you that kind of return, and especially after the season the Bulls just had, yeah, you take that offer in a heartbeat. 3 first-round picks alone for Zach Lavine is a steal, especially when it's the Knicks, who will always crash and burn, which would result in the picks being high lottery selections. Now, I doubt you could get something like that for Lavine now, but with the way teams are vying for players like Bradley Beal, potentially Jaylen Brown, contending teams that might be looking for a second or third scoring option to put them over the top, you'd have to think there is going to be a strong market for a player like Lavine. And if you're the Bulls, you have to do your job in seeing what the market is. Like, I don't get why Bulls fans are upset by this. The front office would be gauging his value and making calls to teams. I would actually be more concerned if they were sitting by idle and doing nothing. They should be making calls on every player on the roster and simply seeing what teams would be willing to give up for them. It's literally your job as a team executive to do so, and especially when you have a disappointing season with little to work with in the future. It would be one thing if the Bulls had just won the championship and Zach had this star run and won the NBA Finals MVP, and we hear this rumor shortly thereafter that the Bulls are fielding calls for Lavine. That would be weird and stupid. But not when the Bulls failed to make the playoffs, have no draft picks, and little to no cap space to work with in bringing in new free agents. There's only one way to improve the roster. It's by using the mid-level exception to sign a free agent and then making trades. That's it. Now, do I think that Zach will ultimately be traded before the start of the season? No, I don't. I think the Bulls' asking price will be too high, which it should be high. You don't just move Zach to move him. You only do so if you're getting maximum value in return. And considering the Bulls don't necessarily have to trade him, it's not like he's demanding a trade or causing problems in the locker room. They have the luxury of waiting for the highest bidder and getting what they want. And if they don't get that, you still have an elite scorer and an all-star in his prime. DeMar DeRozan would actually be more of a priority here because of his age and the fact that he's going to be on an expiring deal. That's a player where you might get to the point to where you move him just to move him because you're not going to have much leverage in trade negotiations. But for Zach, there should be no rush in moving him as quickly as possible, which is why they are quietly gauging trade interest. That really should not come as a surprise. Now, I mentioned there's a first domino that would need to fall in order for a trade like Zach Lavine to actually happen, and that's Bradley Beal getting moved. I just uploaded a video earlier on the other channel on Beal and his trade value and how I think he'll ultimately end up in Miami, but whatever Beal or whenever Beal does get traded, it'll more or less inform the trade market for Zach Lavine, because Zach and Beal are fairly similar players in terms of what they bring to the court. But Zach should be able to fetch more in a trade because he's younger, has been more durable, as Beal has struggled with injuries in recent years, and Lavine, despite being on a max contract, is still cheaper than Bradley Beal, who signed a 5-year, $251 million extension. So for Bulls fans, you have to hope Beal fetches some crazy trade haul, because whatever he gets, it's likely going to set the market for Lavine, which should get you even more. I kind of liken it to when the Hawks traded 3 first-round picks for DeJounte Murray, which set the market for fringe all-stars last offseason, and then you saw Rudy Gobert get moved for a massive package, which was then followed by Donovan Mitchell. Bradley Beal would be the first domino to establish the trade market for this offseason. But regardless, at the end of the day, I don't think the Bulls are really interested in moving Lavine, rather assessing what they can get for him, and it's the right thing to do if they're going to be true to their word and taking a look at everything, even if it means going into a rebuild. I would love to hear what you guys think, though. Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.